Hi everybody, Dan Illman and Matt Bernier kicking off the Saturday Pick 6 on Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar with a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series Winning You're In event. It's the Grade 2 Del Mar Handicap. Let's take a look at this field. The winner of this race, an automatic berth into the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. $250,000 the purse for the Del Mar Handicap. We're going 11 furlongs, 3 turns at Del Mar. Approximate post time 7:40 p.m. Eastern, carded as race number 6. The number 6, It's in the Post. Matt is your tepid 7-2 morning line favorite. Now, I know he ran really well in this race last year. You could make the argument he was best. He had a lot of traffic trouble. But when I look at the PPs, I see 0 for 10 at Del Mar, and I get worried, especially after that last no-show effort in the Eddy Reed.
The Eddy Reed is finally sort of the breaking point for me, where I kind of have to stop ignoring the fact that he has never won a race at Del Mar, because I agree with you. I looked at this race and said last year in the Del Mar Handicap, he was the best horse in the race, and he should have won if things had worked out a little bit better from a trip standpoint. But he was so bad in the Eddy Reed, and I know it was off of a little bit of a layoff, but this is a horse, his hallmark is he's just rock solid. He shows up each and every time, and he was awful that day, and it's just one of those instances. I love him, but at a short price, how can you trust him off that effort?
I agree. At a short price, I can't take him off just a bad effort. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he wins. He's got great tactical speed, but I think he's going to be short, and there are some other interesting horses in this field. Let's talk about him in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Kenji Storm, and we'll throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector, and they got Kenji Storm out there on the lead, and I think that's where he really needs to be in order to be effective at this elongated 1 3/8 distance, because the distance is really the question for this horse. He's raced twice at 1 1/4. He couldn't get there either time. He is in career form for Phil D'Amato. I thought he ran well in the Whittingham last time out behind It's in the Post, and if he steals away to an easy lead, he might be dangerous. I also think he drifts off that 9-2.
I agree about the morning line. I've always liked this horse, but I've always felt he's just more one of those high-level optional claimers, and particularly at a mile. Now, you brought up the distance. That's really the key for a horse like this. If you think he's able to get out there, like the pace projector would suggest, like you hope, I would imagine, if he can get out there and kind of throttle things back a little bit, then all of a sudden we've seen less talented animals take advantage of these sort of pace situations and get the job done. I am deathly afraid of the distance for him. I thought that was really what kind of got him beat in that most recent start at 1 1/4. Now you got to go 1 3/8. The only reason I'm against him is because of the distance.
We talked about It's in the Post's luckless record at Del Mar. The number 2, Flamboyant, a millionaire in his own right, is 0 for 9 over the Del Mar turf, and the last 3 times he faced It's in the Post, he was beaten by that horse. He did win the San Francisco Mile 2 starts back. You loved him that day at 11-1, but boy, he got a great trip up the rail.
He certainly did, and you can make the case that Editore ran a better race that day because of the ground loss and those things. I feel like with every stakes preview that we've done with Flamboyant, just hit replay of what I say in here. He's a 1 to 1 1/8 kind of horse. I understand he hasn't won at Del Mar, but realistically, he hasn't had many opportunities simply because of the distances he's been running. He needs to go shorter.
Tough to recommend the 3, Whoop Whoop, adding blinkers for the first time for trainer Jeff Mullins. We didn't see him for over a year. He came back in a 2X optional claimer. He really didn't do much running, although to be fair, there wasn't a lot of pace in the race. I can certainly see him improve. I can see him a little bit more forwardly placed, perhaps with the blinkers. But boy, he's tough to like. His last win, June of 2016.
Yeah, hard to recommend off of any sort of form right now. I think the Connections would be happy with a decent little run at the end and perhaps a minor award.
You got Awana. The number 4 is yet to buy her 90, but he's only been out 9 times in his career, and he might have been stymied by that slow pace on July 18th when finishing ahead of Whoop Whoop. He kicked a little bit at the end, but still finished behind Ritzy AP, who's in this spot. I think Awana is going to be a nice horse down the road. I wonder if this is too much too soon, but Phil D'Amato knows a lot more about this stuff than me.
I think he's a pretty solid little horse, but I think you brought up an interesting piece, and that's kind of the way that I boiled it down. If Ritzy AP finished ahead of him in that run, and Ritzy AP has more tactical speed than Awana does, I'm just naturally going to lean toward Ritzy AP.
Let's talk about the number 5, Unapologetic, and I certainly understand why Bill Spar tried the Cougar the second handicap. Heck, this horse wants distance. He wants to run all day long. He just doesn't want to run on the dirt with the likes of Beachview, especially since that pace kind of heated up a little bit as they headed down the backstretch. His most recent turf try, 2 back going 10 furlongs. He beat Beachview. He beat 3 next out winners. He beat Ritzy AP. He's 15-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, really, the thing about unapologetic and the beauty of Formulator, you can darken and shade different things that you do and don't want to see. This horse, it boils down to distance on turf. You go through, he's had 5 instances in his career where they've allowed him to go 10 furlongs or greater on turf. He has 3 victories, a second place finish, and he was eased in one of them. This is what he wants to do. Now, if you want to say he's not talented enough or not good enough to win, that's entirely up to you. But this is what this horse wants, and he has a little bit of tactical speed that he brings to the table.
The number 7 is Multiplier, and we say it almost every time on these stakes previews. You look at the pedigree by the factor out of a trippy mare. He's supposed to go 5.5 furlongs. He wants to run 12 furlongs. Multiplier last time out in the Eddy Reed, I thought might have been just a little bit too close to the pace. He's a stalker. He's a mid-pack horse that was pressing solid fractions in the Reed, and he flattened out just a little bit at a distance that might have been a little short for him. I like him stretching out, and he's run some decent figs. He's not out of this.
No, he's the kind of horse that if you think he can get into the run and stay close, the distance is going to be his friend. And again, if you have questions about the other favorites in here, Multiplier is interesting at a decent number.
The number 8 is Ashley Loves Sugar, who won this race in 2016, and he's just one of those horses racing fans have to root for. He's banked $1.3 million. He's won 10 of 27. He dances every dance, but there comes a point in every horse's career. As they get older, you do have to wonder, have they lost a little bit of zing off the fastball? I wonder if that's the case with Ashley Loves Sugar, although this is going to be the first time this year he's had a chance to stretch way out in distance.
Yeah, and really that seems like what his game is as he's gotten older, that these longer distance races, that's really what his bread and butter is. The problem is, I just think he has lost a little bit on the fastball. So now if you're only clocking 91 or 92 as opposed to 95 or 96, it's tough to make up against some of these other horses.
I wonder if the very shrewd Jerry Hollendorfer used the Wicker, a restricted race earlier in this meet, as a prep for this longer race for the number 9 Colonist. He got the pace he needed. He was coming with his usual late run. The wire came a little bit too soon for him. Now, you and I think he's a horse that really wants to go long. The wise old owl, Rich Roble, you can find his selections in DRF.com every day and on DRF. He thinks this horse is a miler. I think we're right.
I do too. I mean, look, it was an instance where I thought the San Luis Rey, I was licking my chops. I thought that was finally the opportunity, and I thought he ran just fine, but it's in the post, and Hayabusa 1 came and ran him down. They immediately caught him back to a mile, and it just makes me wonder if all along Hollendorfer has continued to run him at those middle distances. Now all of a sudden they stretch him back out, and I do wonder if part of it was, you know, you look at that San Luis Rey, there's a little bit of cut in the ground that day. So perhaps getting over firm turf, stretching out in distance, he has a little bit more speed than he's shown recently. Maybe this is the spot for him.
Number 10, Ritzy AP. Danny Blacker trying to strike while the iron is hot. Just last week, this horse scored going 1 mile and a 16th at Santa Rosa. He's taking a big step up in class. He does have some speed, however, and he could be close to the pace.
I've loved this horse ever since he debuted. I think there is ability here. The problem is it just doesn't feel like he has improved enough necessarily to win a race like this, but I think, again, he brings that little tactical speed. He can easily hit the board, I think, at a big number.
The 11, Cashman, a German import now trained by Neil Drysdale for the powerful Team Valor Syndicate. Coming off a stakes win in Germany, I have to admit, haven't really been blown away by the quality of competition he was facing over there, but we know one thing about these German horses, they are stout and they want to run all day long.
I was going to say, this is the definition of a stayer. I think he'll run all day. That won't be the problem. The question comes down to, is he good enough? I think this is one of those instances. I know he's Group 3 placed last year, but he just looks a little bit cheap on paper. Fashion
Business, the number 12, son of the great Frankel, ran really well in the Manhattan, I thought, 2 starts back. I don't know what happened in the Eddy Reed. Maybe 1 mile and an eighth, a little bit too short. Maybe he fell too far back. I needed to see a little bit more from him.
I wonder if it was a combination of things. Perhaps it was the fact that it felt like speed did okay on opening weekend down at Del Mar on the turf, and now maybe you get a little bit more distance. You hear Phil D'Amato say that race was nothing more than a prep to get to a spot like this. We'll find out. I think distance is going to be a little bit more beneficial for him.
And I think with a fair pace, he's going to come with his run. I've always liked this horse. I don't think he's reached his potential just yet. Let's take a look at our top selections. We certainly respect It's in the Post. We think he's an underlay as the favorite. We want prices. You are unapologetic about that.
Yeah, I like what you did there. Yeah, this is an instance, again, this is what this horse wants to do. Whether he's good enough or not, against this level of competition? We'll find out, but you're just supposed to draw a line through the Cougar the second. This is what he wants to do. If he registers something in the sort of mid-90 range, a 95 or plus, I think he's got a big chance in a spot like this.
Give me numbers.
5, 12, 6, 10.
15-1 on Matt's top pick, the 5, Unapologetic. I'm open for a little bit more than the 9-2 I'm getting on the morning line for the 1, Kenji Storm. I think pace makes the race. It's up to the great Gary Stevens to get this horse out there, get him relaxed, and let him kick on home. I'm going 112.76 in the Grade 2 Del Mar Handicap, part of the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series. It's a win and you're in for the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf.